let's try and understand why it is that when these two are the same, you can just cross them out. So for example, if you have 3x over 3, you can just cross out the 3's to give you x. We need to understand why you can do it with this one, but you can't do it with this one. You can't just simply cross out the a and then it becomes x. You can't do that. For this one here, this complicated thing is actually the same as x plus b. We need to understand why. So for this one here, it's like me saying 3 times a number and then divided by 3. Well, think of a number, could be any number, times 3 and then divided by 3. So for example, 10. 10 times 3 is 30, divided by 3, that would be 10. Notice that these two, in a way, they cancel each other out. The reason for that is, if you have, let's say, if you have like a car with 4 wheels, and then when you times by 3 and then divide it by 3, it means you have a car with 4 wheels, and then you make a copy of it 3 times. 3 times, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 3. So that's you multiplying by 3. So that's like 12 wheels. And then you divide it by 3. When you divide it by 3, it means you cut it up into 3 equal pieces, and then you keep 1. You see, you're back to 4 wheels. So when you have something, and then you times by 3, and then you divide by 3, because times are not and divide are opposites of each other, they in a way they cancel each other out. So that's why you're able to jump from here to here. Now let's look at this one first. We need to understand why it is that you just can't cancel out the a's here. So let's look at this one first. This one here, if you look at the numerator, a is in common for the numerator, so you can factor out the a. So it's like this. This would be x and this would be b, and then the denominator stays the same. So now you can rewrite this as a over a times that bubble here, times this bubble here, x plus b. You see, if I were to give you a fraction and ask you to multiply it with a bubble, the bubble gets multiplied to the top, giving you this. So you can, in effect, drag out that bubble to give you this. So this whole thing here is the same as a fraction times this. Well, this a over a is just a number 1. So now the number 1 times this bubble is just this bubble. That's why you're able to jump from here to here. The reason is because you can factor out the a. It's like one thing times another thing. You can factor out the a. That's why the a's would cancel each other out in this case, because when you factor out the a, when you factor out the a, x plus b, when you factor out the a, it's one thing times another thing. Just like ax over a is one thing times another thing. So you can just cross them out. But here you can't factor out the a. So hang on. If you look at this one here, a is in common, so you can factor out the a. You can factor out the a. Here a is not in common, so there's no way of you being able to factor out the a. So in this case, you've got no choice but to leave it. You've got no choice but to leave it as it is. So this thing here is actually is exactly the same. You can't simplify this. So you can't just come along and say, oh, I'm going to cross out the a's here. You can't for this case. But this one here, because you're able to factor out the a, then you can cross out the a's here. Okay? So this one here, you can simplify. This one here, you can't simplify. You just got to leave it as it is. This one here, you can just cross out the a's. Okay?